Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
9 present.
9 present. Chair recognizes Councilor Donahue for a moment of silence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We could rise in a moment of silence in honor of William Bill Allen. Bill Allen passed away this past week. He was a World War II veteran, having served in the United States Marine Corps. He was a communicant of St. Michael's Church. He has served on the board of the Friends on the Lowell Council on Aging for several years. And in 2004, he implemented the Senior of the Month program with the Council on Aging. He's the loving father of 6 daughters and 3 sons-in-law. He loved his country, loved his family, loved to travel, and he will be missed. So if we could have a moment of silence in memory of Bill Allen.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Murcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, want to comment a little bit about Bill Allen. Having served with him and sitting beside him every time we met for the Friends of the Council on Aging, he always had nice comments to say, always great ideas. He was just the laugh of the party. He was unbelievable. I didn't know that we shared the same birthday. If I would have known that, we would have had more to talk about, but he'll truly be missed. When he established that Senior of the Month, we should have stepped back and made him a Senior of the Month, because he was just a remarkable person. Not only did he serve in World War II, but he served in 2 armed services, in the Marine Corps and the Army. He was a lifelong member of Lowell Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 662, the Walker Rogers Post, and he was just a remarkable man, and we'll truly miss him on the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we could rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers in Mr. Allen's memory. May he rest in peace. Okay, on the first item on the agenda there are some residents, primarily, I think, from the Rosemont Terrace neighborhood section of Pawtucketville here that wanted to speak on behalf of the city's efforts in the recent flood. I don't have names particularly, so those of you who are present and wish to speak, if you could just come to the microphone and simply state your name, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, members of the City Council. My name is Paul Belay. I live at 65 Elmer Street. The residents of Rosemont Terrace wanted to personally come down to thank the city for greatly minimizing the damage to our neighborhood after last year's flood that devastated us. Last year, Manager Lynch formed a flood task force comprised of neighbors and city officials to come up with a plan in the event that this would happen again. And Mr. Mayor, largely that plan worked. Mark Young's backflow valves installed ahead of schedule stopped early street flooding. The Jersey barriers used to hold back the brook on our side held, thanks to the city engineers and Peter Maloney, who oversaw operations. The DPW, under the supervision of Mr. Walsh, brought in sandbags while he directed his men, neighbors, and machines to the areas that the brook would breach. The city is very lucky to have a man of his experience, and we'd like to thank Mr. Walsh very, very much for his expertise. We'd like to thank the Water and Wastewater Department for manning the new pumps that pumped us out and kept us dry. We'd like to thank Acting Police Chief LaValle and Fire Chief DeRocha thank you for your department's help. We'd like to thank John Darling, who came in on his own time and his equipment to help out, and it is still working in the neighborhood. We'd also like to thank Alan Kasanjian, who once again stepped up at a moment's notice and donated his time. We'd like to thank the construction crews who worked in the neighborhood last year that came down to help us when they heard that we were in trouble. Crews, Roger Tangway and his crew, Rainey Prue and his crew, Bernie Denomi and his crew, and Berube Electric and their crew. These friends of the neighborhood emptied basements, moved washers and dryers, and helped with sandbagging. When sandbags were needed, they took their trucks to the city barn to get more, and once we got what we needed, Lenny Berube once again stepped up and left his crew at the city barn to help the city workers fill sandbags. We'd like to thank Gary Belrose, Jay Bowles, and the many family members and friends who came from around the city to help us out. And a special thanks to a friend of the neighborhood, Councilor Bud Caulfield, who I woke up late Monday night. Bud came down to New York Street and helped us get a hold of TJ. Thank you very much, Bud, for helping us out that night. Our hearts go out to the 9 families who were affected on New York Street. We tried our best that evening, Mr. Mayor, but it was coming in too fast and too high. We feel bad for those families on New York Street. And we also feel bad for the ones along the Merrimack. Hopefully something can be done to help them. I'm sure I've left a bunch of people out. I don't know all of their names that were down there. And I want to thank all of you. But Mr. Manager, through you, Mr. Mayor, we're all very proud of you, your staff, TJ McCarthy, emergency management team. Also would like to thank, and we're very proud of all the city employees who worked so hard those last couple days. And to you, councilors, for supporting the manager and having your best wishes, and we'd like to thank you all very much. I know there's a few neighbors who want to say a few words, and I just want to thank you once again. I'd like to give you, Mr. Manager, with your permission, a thank you card from the neighbors.
Thank you, Paul. And there is actually another card that was sent into my office that I've made copies for and circulated to the councilors. So that's at least the second card, Mr. Manager. Whoever else wants to speak, just please come to the microphone and state your name. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Good evening, councilors, mayor. My name's Debbie Lohner. I reside at 86 New York Street. And first of all, I would like to thank Bud Caulfield and the city for providing us with sandbags Monday evening. It did help slow down the process, however, it just wasn't enough. My home was one of the homes that, again, got destroyed on my first floor. I don't know what could have been done that evening to try to prevent the water from destroying my home a second time. I'm extremely upset, and I don't know exactly who I'm upset at, but I never could imagine in my life that I would be flooded out of my home 2 times in 11 months. You know, after 76 years or 73 years, however long it was. And then, you know, to hear it's a fluke thing, you know, it's once in a lifetime, and I thought, you know, another 76 years, I'll be down below getting a drink of water, you know. And 11 months later, my home, my first floor is destroyed again. Financially, I can't even afford the first flood, let alone the second one. I'm just asking anybody, I don't know who I'm asking, the, you know, engineers, the city, anybody, if we could try to, you know, build something back there to prevent my home along with my neighbors' homes from continuously getting destroyed. You know, we don't even have hopes of, you know, rebuilding again because I don't know if another flood's going to come. And the home I'm in, I don't have enough room on my main level to live comfortably with my family. You know, I still have no heat. The house, you know, I have 2 floors of living space in one floor. Again, my son doesn't have a bedroom. Something needs to be done, and I don't know what. I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. So I just thought I'd start here and see, if I could get names and numbers, what I could do as a resident, who purchased a home there. If there's something I can do to, I don't know, start a petition, contact, if we could contact the government, if we could contact somebody, the engineering. I know they were around last year. I'll get back to you. And unfortunately, nothing was ever done. And again, another disaster, and I'm just not looking forward to another one.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Manager?
I'm not sure if now's the time I should respond, or I will tell you that we had a meeting earlier today. TJ McCarthy met with a number of our public works people, our engineering people from CDM, to look at a couple of different areas that, we were very successful. And Paul, thank you very much for the very kind comments. And I have to echo everything you said about the city employees. They did an outstanding job, just a tremendous effort all the way around. And we're very proud of them and the work that they did. And I think a sort of a testament to their dedication is that we see that as a success that we can build upon and try to do something in the area of New York Street, but also in another section of the city that also experienced some flooding. They are more difficult areas to try to cope with, but we are working to try to develop some solutions that will probably require the participation of the Army Corps of Engineers, but we are committed to doing that. I know Councilor Caulfield's already spoken to Senator Kerry's office. We've obviously still working with Congressman Meehan and Will with his successor to try to get the congressional help that we need to get the federal government involved. And but from the city's perspective, we are out there trying to develop some plans and some ideas that may be able to work. We're pleased with what we were able to accomplish in the Rosemont area, but we want to make that a more permanent solution as well. But we want to try to extend out into that area as well, and as well as up in the Townsend Road area. So.
Is there anything residents could do to?
We may be drawing upon your interest and your participation in the very near future, as we'll probably be looking at trying to set up some in both of those neighborhoods some type of task force to work with us, a residential task force, and so we will be in touch with you on that.
Sir?
My name's Donald Ahern, and I live at 102 New York Street, and I certainly concur with Paul. A lot of effort was put in behind, taking care of certain areas of that Rosemont Terrace area. There's people there that didn't get any water at all, and I saw them working on the embankment and stuff. It was like a war effort, throwing sandbags and stuff on that thing, plus pumping out behind it was really monumental. The work that went behind that Public Works Department is, I don't know, I couldn't say enough good things about them. It's just unbelievable. Those people are really great. We did, however, have a little problem on New York Street, and that has to do probably with an environmental situation as well that you have to deal with. But the problem for us is that back door is always open for us, and it's not a comfortable feeling. Last year when this happened, I was in Aruba. My brother-in-law called me to tell me, you're now probably pretty much in the middle of Beaver Brook, and very unpleasant to come and find. I had a finished basement, your television turned upside down, my son's bedroom furniture floating around and stuff. And I, however, this year was very fortunate and only got groundwater. Probably the only person on that side of the street that didn't have any damage at all, But I can't tell you how much I empathize. I almost felt guilty, Let me throw some water in my basement because my neighbors didn't do that well, especially people that who made that decision or didn't really have a choice in some instances. I know they need that space for. I know a friend of mine, Jimmy, has a family that's bigger than where his upstairs is. He has a bar, and so too Debbie and Tony. You know, they need that space to live in. You know, it's not their basement. You know, it's a living space for them. You know, and have to put that out front every time it rains, right about this time of year, because, you know, I think it was May last time when this happened. That's not here yet. They still got a lot of snow up north. And I don't care what they say about 20 years or how many years. Don't tell me about the weather, because it could happen next week. We could be dealing with this again next week. It's just not out of the question. I don't believe anybody knows exactly what the weather's going to do nowadays anyways, you know. It's been real crazy, and I don't want to find myself in that same situation, you know. I almost feel like if it started again, just, you know, give it the short neck. I know people really threw in and try to help everybody else. I know I was trying to help people because I wasn't in any situation immediately, and everybody else tried to help everybody else out, and it was really, I'll tell you something, it's really great to see people pulling together. And as you can see, most of these people here are from New York Street and a few from the Rosemont area, but we really pulled together, and we really want to see something done if you people can help us, you know. But I don't know if I want to go through that again, you know. I really have to say thanks to everybody involved. And I know when I called Paul, he got up out of bed, and then we called Bud, and, you know, and it went like that. And Debbie was the first one to notice that. And unfortunately, the one who actually picked up on it ended up probably suffering the most, you know, and it really is lousy. It's lousy, you know. And I can't thank you enough. I'm not saying, you know, it's just a situation is just so bad for us, you know, in a lot of ways. Maybe something could be done, you know, along those lines to remedy that. That's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, City Manager, Councilors. My name's Janet Paz. I live at 104 Alma Street. I definitely feel for New York Street, for Townsend, for Old Ferry Road. I cannot even imagine going through that again. My home was destroyed last year. This year, thanks to everybody in this city, I did not get any water. Also, thank you to all the residents on Rosemont, on Alma Street, on Lafayette, on Beaver Street, on New York, that helped everybody out. We did the best we could, and you guys did the best you could. And I can only hope that you're there the next time, which I know you will be, but that fear is always in you for the next time. And hopefully, the next time it's going to be even better. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I couldn't miss this one tonight because I was born in a place called McFarland Avenue on the banks of the Merrimack River, just below Sheehy Dormitory. There's a little park bench that I manipulated getting placed in a certain particular spot, and right above was my mother's birth room. All births were at home then, and I was born in that spot. So don't let anybody touch that bench. But I want to tell you, in 1936, the storm was treacherous, unbelievable. Ice climbed the walls. It split in the middle of the river, and it was, I referred to it as a little kid, thunder on the river, man, something that just hit you inside and took you apart. We seen our home taken away from us, and we loved it because it was a corporate home belonging to Daniel Gage Incorporated. And previous to that, it was belonged to McFarland. So we had all of the history built into our neighborhood, and we lost it. And when I seen Rosemont Terrace, that's the first thing that come to my mind. As a little boy, I drove down through the back streets with my uncle, who was on the fire department, and he showed me the neighborhoods, in your neighborhoods, and it was terrible. It was something that you wouldn't ever want to see again. Water was every place. Homes were underwater everywhere you could go. When you stand up on the main streets and you look down below towards Rosemont Terrace, and there was water 6 feet below your feet where you were standing, Imagine where the homes were then. But you guys come up with a good program. You put it together, and Mr. McCarthy, I've heard your name mentioned in Pawtucketville 1,000 times over recently, and all of you, but particularly his name. I don't know why, but McCarthy's a pretty favorite name in the Irish nationality. But you were well honored, believe me, and you deserved every bit of it. And people spoke about you with passion, you know, something good about you. So I congratulate you for that. And I'll tell you this, I was thankful to God. I got in my car, drove around up and down the boulevard, into places I probably shouldn't have been. But when I got at the ice cream stand and I looked at that old flagpole standing there, and I was standing on dry soil and not 9 feet of water, okay, because the water mark was 9 feet right there. And so we had some good things happen. The dams have been repaired upriver. Both dams went then. And ice would collect. You could get ice on a river 18 inches thick, okay, and when it come down, when we said thunder, it was like thunder. I can remember a woman, an elder woman, older than I am, imagine that. But she explained her feelings, and she was on the opposite side of the river. And the slabs of ice come up over the sandbars and hit up against the bathhouse. And she said almost exactly what I said, and thunder was on the river. Thunder was on the river. And so I remember it very well, and I sympathize for every one of you because we lost our home. There was no going back. But I keep going back. I go visit my park all the time, and I got it labeled at the other side of Hebertsville, and but I'm thankful, very, very thankful for the city of Lowell getting involved and doing what we should have been studying about doing for many, many years. If we ever think that it couldn't happen again, guess again, there are some big, big lakes up there, and that's where your water's coming from. If the dam's whole, it's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Okay. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming down here this evening and addressing the council and Manager Lynch and his administration. Secondly, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing in Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray to tour the flooded site. Without further ado, Councilor Donohue has said it, many of my colleagues have said it, a full court press has to be put on the Army Corps of Engineers. That's what they're there for, to represent people. And I feel so bad for the Luna family. Once again, they lost everything. And I understand that the dike that was being built, they were stopped. And I'd like to see if the law department could investigate that, Mr. Manager, your administration, to see if we can continue that in some way. But I did take the liberty to call Senator Kennedy and Senator Kerry. Senator Kerry's office was the only one to call back, and TJ has that information. I understand that Lieutenant Governor Murray's coming again this Friday, Mr. Mayor.
Correct, yes.
I can't make that meeting, but I think it'd be the utmost importance that we address this issue. And also, for the people on Townsend Avenue, Melrose Avenue, Shirley Avenue, the Clay Brook over there has to be addressed. It has to be dredged, something. We're living in the 21st century, the state of the art, and there's nothing we can't do. And the city proved that last Sunday night, building that dike. So there's two people who were up at this microphone thanking everyone, and I want to take the liberty to thank them, and I think the council should as well. Paul Ballet and Donald Lahern, they provided the leadership to get the city down there, and I want to personally thank them for that leadership.
Thank you. There is another resident who wanted to be recognized, I believe. So.
I have a garage in the Rosemont section. This is a federal problem, not the city, not the state. 1936, there was a flood, and they built the VFW highway. They built the VFW highway, they built a dike under it. That was all federal money. The wall in Centerville, federal money. We met with Marty Meehan, city manager, assistant city manager, fire chief, police chief, whoever. But there was a guy from the Army Corps of Engineers there. That's federal. Of course, I don't think they expected this fast. They probably want to do a study, but it's federal dollars that needs to be taken care of this problem. They need to straighten out on any of the side streets of this city, global warming, whatever, building, however you want to do it. It's a federal problem. They need to get down here and take care of this. Guys, the city did an awesome job, Bud. Everybody that's here, but they need to come down here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone further on this issue? All right, Councilor Caulfield does have a motion on the agenda. Maybe we could take that up out of order. The motion is the motion is to request the city manager and mayor properly recognize the efforts of John Darling, Peter Maloney, and countless others who assisted in preventing flood damage during the recent flood. Seconded by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor, we spoke briefly about the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank my colleagues for taking this motion out of order. I think the motion speaks for itself. Mr. Mayor, if you could have a reception in the mayor's reception room, you pick the date, the time, and recognize the various departments. Ed Walsh, DPW, Dan LaHiff, Water Utility, Mark Young, Wastewater. And when I'm mentioning their names, I mean the employees who contributed. Fire Department, Chief DeRosa, Chief LaValle, the Police Department, Mark Bolden-Rangini, Energy Management, and especially City Engineer Peter Maloney. He was the one who grasped the bull by the horns and said, this is what we're going to do. And I can't speak enough for John Dowling, private citizen, private contractor, brought his equipment in, and that's the reason why that dam was built. So there's countless other people, but Mr. Mayor, I would appreciate it if you could have that reception. And there's two words, thank you, goes a long way.
Certainly be happy. We'll organize an appropriate celebration. Folks should know that out of the last flood, the planning process that took place, the debriefing sessions and things, part of that is what led to the success this time. And all those folks that have been thanked tonight were part of that process. So certainly it wasn't a perfect response, but it was better, and we will continue to get better at it. But you're absolutely right that this is a federal problem that needs federal resources to address, and we will continue to put the pressure on that too, to see that we get the appropriate resources that we need. So thank you all for your help and your assistance with this. Thanks for your patience to those of you that this has happened to again. Our apologies. We do have limited resources here, but we're going to make the most of them, so hopefully this does not occur again in that neighborhood.
Mr. Mayor, I neglected to mention the Lynch administration. They were there as well. It was just an oversight on my part. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Didn't the governor declare this a state of an emergency, or that the city was an emergency? He did not.
The mayor declared a state of emergency.
The mayor did. Okay, so
City of Lowell,
no state reimbursement will be eligible for.
There are some efforts underway to, and as Councilor Caulfield mentioned, the mayor was able to get Lieutenant Governor Murray up here, and we certainly made the case that we had some needs as far as reimbursement for this particular flood. They are in the data gathering stage now. It's possible that there will be some money that freed up at either the state or federal level, and we're certainly pushing to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, when FEMA pays out for a disaster such as flooding, do they do it a second time, or is it only one time?
They could conceivably do it twice, but there are, that gets more into the whole flood insurance issue and the like, but I believe they would still pay twice.
You know, it says a lot about a community, especially a city, when we think about rain, and it doesn't seem to faze some people, but others, such as the people that live there, any slight overcast sends them into a panic. This is not a way to live, and, you know, my heart does go out to you, and I do want to thank the neighbors as well, because, you know, it's one thing to say, gee, I hope someone comes and helps us, but they were right out there helping themselves as well, filling the sandbags, climbing up, make sure everything was all right, alerting each neighbor and helping each other, and I've never seen such camaraderie as that, so they have to be commended too. You're a great indicator of what this great city is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager, I did read, Mr. Manager, where I believe it was the state had identified up to $7 million to reimburse a number of communities. And Lowell, unfortunately, for whatever reason, was not mentioned on that list. So again, I would ask you and your administration just to check into that if you could.
I saw that article as well. There was an article in the Globe today regarding that.
Yes.
And I looked for Lowell as well. There were some seaside communities as well as some in the western part of the state that were mentioned. And strangely enough, the Middlesex area, and I think Haverhill actually was mentioned as well.
Yes, right.
And we submitted paperwork documenting some $140,000 of reimbursable expenses here that the city spent, and we know that there's some information that they're gathering regarding some private household damages as well, or private party damages. But to my knowledge, as of yet, they have not made a determination as to whether they're going to pay on those.
And just one other quick point, if I could. I think that Council Caulfield's idea is a good one, to have a reception thanking everyone involved, and I'd be happy to take a request back to the business community through the Lowell plan if they could help underwrite the cost of that. So I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ramirez?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, are you aware of, is there a time frame or a deadline that the government uses as to when they will stop accumulating the damage cost so that they can make a decision?
Councilor, they're going to continue. The federal process is based on a percentage within the county, percentage of damage. I don't know the exact figures. Last storm, we were sort of on a borderline. The 11 months ago, a lot of the damage, again, happened in Essex County. Unfortunately, what they base that on is the county, and obviously Middlesex being so large, there's a pretty large threshold. So there was some special legislation or special action that took place to put us in that category. I think that what they'll continue to do is continue to assess that, and if we can reach a certain threshold for this particular area, we'd be placed in some sort of disaster relief program.
I ask, I certainly don't want to advocate a high count of damages, but I also don't want to shortchange anybody, so that's why I hope that we follow that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further? All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? That motion is adopted, and we'll notify Mr. Belay and some of the other leaders that spoke tonight as to the date of that party, and we'll keep you informed as to progress with the federal government as that continues. Thank you all for coming this evening. Next item on the agenda. Do we have anyone here for Law Day from the Greater Lowell Bar Association? Okay. Why don't I quickly read the proclamation. They did appear at the school committee last evening. Whereas Law Day is a celebration of our nation's great heritage of liberty, justice, and equality under law, and whereas all youth used to understand their rights and responsibilities under the law to become effective participants in our nation's civic life, and whereas Law Day 2007 theme of liberty under law, empowering youth, assuring democracy encourages us to ensure that our youth are equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary to effectively make their voices heard within our democracy now Therefore, I, William F. Martin, Jr., Mayor of the city, do hereby proclaim April 27, 2007 as Law Day and urge all citizens to use this occasion to preserve and strengthen the rule of law. So, you know, the Greater Lowell Bar Association will have a lawyer speaking in, I think, every school in the city. On Friday, there's an essay contest that will occur that I am one of the judges for at noontime at the juvenile court. So we'll officially recognize Law Day, which is May 1st, this Friday, April 27th. And lastly, under the ceremonial items, we have a proclamation for Rebuilding Lowell Together to be presented to our former colleague Peter Richards. Ask Mr. Richards to come forward and tell us a little bit about his program, and we'll present the proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Manager. It's a pleasure for me to be here tonight and accept the city's recognition of the efforts of what is now known as Rebuilding Together Lowell. For those of you who have been around for a while, you may have known us as Christmas in April Lowell. It's the same great organization doing the same great work, just under a different name, which now puts us in line with the other 300 chapters that are working across the country doing the same kind of work that we're doing this coming Saturday. I want to thank you for the recognition tonight, and also let you know that we thank you for the years of support that Christmas in April and now Rebuilding Together has had with the city. And I want you to know that we make every concrete contribution that we can. The fact is that over the 10 years, now this 11th year of operation of our program, we've done over 100 sites in the city. Those 100 sites account for well over $500,000 worth of work. It involves tens of thousands of hours, better than 3 or someplace close to 4,000 volunteers over the course of our lifetime, all pitching together and basically trying to work neighbors helping neighbors. And that's ultimately what the program is about. So we thank you for your recognition this evening. We want to make everyone aware that Christmas in April lives, just under a different name, and we appreciate the past support and look forward to partnering with the city again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. It's this Saturday, correct?
It's still Saturday, Mr. Mayor.
This
We thought we'd brighten up the chambers a little tonight for you.
All right. Is there still opportunity for people to volunteer?
Unfortunately, no, Mr. Mayor, but we always take cash donations.
Okay. All right, so this Saturday, April 28th, I, William F. Martin, Jr., do hereby proclaim as National Rebuilding Day in the city of Lowell and urge all citizens to join the celebration, not necessarily to volunteer, but to come and cheer these folks on and maybe make a donation, correct?
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will move to the public hearings. The first public hearing, the second reading of this matter, accepting the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 71F, regarding all monies received by the school department as tuition payments for non-resident students by accepting tuition students into selected special education programs on a space available basis for the 2007-2008 school year and thereafter. Questions on this item? Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought Jay Lang was here.
He was here.
Well,
I'm sorry. First, it's a public hearing, Council. We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this matter? Okay. Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Council, you have questions for Mr. Lang?
I always thought we had this. I thought we had this in effect already, that if we didn't offer a program, we offered a program and we were a reciprocated community whereby someone from outside of the area, if they were on this same schedule, they could come to one of our programs, but they'd have to pay for it. I thought we already had that.
No.
Do we have something similar in place? What is?
We don't. The school committee is required annually to take a formal vote whether to be part of a school choice program or not, and historically the school committee has always voted not to participate. So our enrollment is limited to just Lowell residents. By this action, it would allow the school committee to take an affirmative vote to allow school choice. but restricted to specific programs, grade levels, schools, where we've identified that there may be some room to take in additional students that wouldn't have a negative impact on our existing populations, and actually then charge the sending district a regular tuition rate, as opposed to under regular school choice, you would just be given your per pupil expenditure, and it would come as kind of a wash when the Chapter 70 money is given to the different districts. This will actually allow us to look at some specific programs, particularly special ed in the system, and tie out an actual tuition rate to those. And we've had some neighboring towns and communities that are very interested in sending their children to some of our programs. And we can do that, use that tuition that we come in and show it as a revenue in our budget to offset some of the operating costs for those programs. But historically, we haven't done this at all.
Are we only allowing communities to take part of these programs if we can allow our children to go over to their community?
No.
For example, I had a neighbor one time that had a daughter that did not send her child to the Lowell High School, but send her child to Westford Academy because we didn't offer a particular program that she was looking for. So I thought this already was in effect.
If we have students in Lowell who desire to go to, say, Westford Academy, and
Right.
Westford has votes to allow school choice, then our
Yes.
students can go to Westford for their education program. It's just that we don't allow, say, students from Westford currently to come to Lowell to be in our programs. So our students can always go out to any school district that will accept them if the district accepts school choice. But we haven't reciprocated or allowed them to
But
come
now
into
we
Lowell.
are
We
through
would
this
be
vote?
under specific programs, specific grade levels, where we've determined we have the capacity to take students in, and actually it would benefit our program by doing so.
And this is the first time we're doing this, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Just one question to Jay. Jay, by and large, this is a cost-saving device, isn't it? Way up to saving the school districts some money.
Correct. The
Right.
school district and, ultimately the city as
So
well.
we would be foolish not to adopt this and pass it.
Yes, the school committee and the school administration has researched this thoroughly and feel it is in our best interest to move forward with it.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the vote is adopted. We have the minutes for acceptance from the April 17th meeting. Any questions or corrections? Move to accept by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, the minutes are accepted. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have communications from the manager. Oh, I'm sorry, we have, before that, we have one item of unfinished business in order of taking acceptance of Dean Drive to take by eminent domain and fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Dean Drive and other municipal purposes associated therewith. This matter was, we held the hearing last week, and it gets held in the clerk's office for 1 week and is now up for vote this week. Any questions? Motion approved by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the vote is approved. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, we do have several communications from the manager in response to council motions and requests. On those items, any questions or comments? Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, I had a question about the communication on the ice at the arena and the bids that were opened recently that were much higher than what we had estimated or expected. And so I'm wondering if we can talk about that. And I don't know whether you want to do it in the form of a further report, but clearly the expense is much greater than what we had thought just a short while ago when it went out to bid. And I think it raises serious questions as far as what can the city do. Number one, in terms of the time frame that we're talking about, this is nearly May, and we had, I think, had hoped to be further ahead in the process as far as getting the ice done. But number two, maybe even more importantly, what is the prospect in terms of the university's hockey team? Are they going to stay? Are they going to go? I know there's talk about moving it to Amherst. And what about, our American Hockey League team? I mean, these are very serious issues that I think we have to take into consideration as far as how do we move forward on this big ticket item right now. We could find ourselves paying this, huge expense, and not to say that we shouldn't repair this ice, but and find ourselves with no hockey team in the near future. So I don't know whether this is something that, Mr. Manager, you want to bring back to the council for discussion, or whether, is time of the essence as far as moving forward on this ICE project, or where are we at?
Councilor, we had a meeting today with the Arena Commission to go over the bids that we received and to discuss the various issues related to this. We are under a very tight time frame. It had been our hope that we would have been able to award the contract this week and had them in place by the first week of May. We have about I think it's we needed to have the work done by October 1st, and that would have brought us right to that point. So this does cause some problems for us in that regard. One of the things we have to look at is what the cost is now to do that, the lost revenue that we have for this summer because we couldn't book anything, and then consider the costs of what they may be next year, and then another year of lost revenue for next year. We're looking too at the, will it last another year? What are the plans of the university as well as the Devils? I do have a meeting set up with the Devils organization for early next week. I also am having discussions with the incoming chancellor regarding the hockey program at UMass Lowell. There has been a task force that's been set up that's having a meeting on May 7th that I've been asked to attend. So there are a number of different variables out there. Clearly, I agree with you that we need to do something with the ice to make this arena a full-service facility. However, we do have to look at the costs involved with this, as well as what are the revenue sources that are coming back to the city that would help us support this. So we're looking at a number of different options as to how we might be able to fund this, and then also looking to it whether the time is right to do it this year, or whether we should wait one more year and do it at that time. I hope to have a more detailed and complete report for you next Tuesday or soon thereafter.
Just one last question. I suppose it doesn't matter, but any idea why the bids were so different than what we had expected them to be?
Well, I think there are several different reasons that we discussed today. Clearly, it came as a shock to all of us that they came in as the way that they did. Construction costs have gone up. They're continuing to escalate. But in addition to that, there were some changes made or became necessary that they had not anticipated. One is to get the necessary equipment in, because if you recall, we had a direct system before. To put an indirect system in, we had to bring some new equipment in. Unfortunately, there's no way to get that into the building. It's the type of equipment that you build while the build around. So there would have been a need to actually put a new entranceway, cut an entranceway into the arena to bring that in. That would have required obviously some masonry work and the construction of a new door. That's was some $60,000 more than was anticipated. They would have needed a new pad, concrete pad installed to hold this. The compressor that's currently on the roof would have to be brought down to the ground level. There were additional costs involved with that. There was some additional demolition work that they feel is needed that was not anticipated initially. I think those are the major items that had this impact on the cost, but they were able to spell some of that out. And why that wasn't picked up early enough is somewhat unclear, but the bids were all in about the same level. It would have required bringing in a general contractor to do the work, because none of the ice companies that install these are qualified under the state DCAM requirements. So that runs up some additional costs as well. So those are really the issues that we've identified so far.
Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you. Councilor Elliott had his...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the city manager. Mr. Manager, I am concerned that clearly the cost has skyrocketed, but I'm also concerned that I remember the discussion when this subject was first brought to us, that we were going to specifically hire a firm that were experts, I suppose, in this particular area. So when I read your report, I didn't understand exactly why, and I understand your explanation somewhat, but why there would be such a significant jump. And your explanation tells me that there was some, obviously mistake, and it doesn't make much sense to me that they would miss, if they're experts in the field, presumably some of these fundamental problems that they should have surfaced in. Because I remember asking, are we going out 30B? Are we going to solicit bids from architects and engineers, knowing that we've had a fair amount of trouble with, with architects and engineers in the past on some of these public projects? So, have we had discussions with? Is it Sasaki Associates, and do they have some liability here? Because this squarely puts us in a financial issue, not only with the hockey team, but as well as the lost revenue from, these other organizations. So it seems that there may have been some oversight, but they clearly bear the responsibility, or a good majority of the responsibility for this oversight, if you will.
Well, we're reviewing all of those issues right now. I really can't comment in any elaborate way on those, but we're certainly looking at some of those issues. I think that when we first went out to bid, in minor detail, that the architectural work isn't bid under the same 30B, isn't bid under 30B. It's bid under some different public construction statutes. And when we went out and obtained their proposal, I believe they were one of the only ones that did propose to us. They do have extensive experience in this area. We were unclear whether we were going to go with a direct or indirect system, once again. And it was pretty clear to most of us, I think, that we needed to go to an indirect system that would not experience the corrosion that the direct system had experienced. And they looked at, the whole idea of cutting that hole in the back was a way that they thought was more economical than, having to cut up the machinery and bring it in and do the different, doing things a little bit differently. And the compressor on the roof, they had hoped to utilize that. Somewhat, we did give them a short time frame in order to get all this work done. There may be some benefits of giving them a little bit more time to work it out again. Once again, we're trying to look at all of these different options as we move forward, and it is somewhat of a complex situation, and clearly one that I'm not pleased with, that we got to this point, and we've blocked off this summer, and we're not sure whether we're ready to proceed now at this point.
Well, I think that's probably the point that none of us are happy with, and that is we're stuck right between a rock and a hard place, because we need to proceed, and it just seems that it's a cat and mouse game with these architects / engineers. And maybe some of the issues were legitimate, but if they're experts, that's why we specifically hired experts. And it's not so much a finger pointing, because we know where the problem lies. But where do we move forward, and and what do we do in light of the fact that we don't know the future of the Devils, or
And certainly, this has been an issue that's been ongoing. I mean, I think, as we described when we presented this a couple of months ago, these problems with the ice go back 2 or 3 years. It's been out there, and it's been an issue that needed to be addressed. And finally, it reached a point this year that we decided we had to move forward on it. This was the time to do it, and so clearly, this isn't a good situation that we find ourselves in right now. But again, I hope to have more information, some firmer recommendation for you next week on how I wish to proceed.
Did I hear you say that, and while it's probably not the alternative we want to seek is there is a possibility of potentially delaying this for 1 year and making it through another, hopefully, I mean, are we rolling the dice? I mean, we don't need failure of the ice in the middle of the hockey season either.
It is an option that we're exploring, and we'll have a better handle on that by next week.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to follow up on that last statement made by Councilor Elliott. If we today knew that the Devils weren't staying and that UMass Lowell was not going to be able to use the facility anymore by some policy decision at the higher education level, I would suspect that we wouldn't be spending $1.5 million for ice with nobody using it. I think that option of delaying should be really looked at, simply because we do not know the future of the teams that are scheduled to use the $1.5 million. And we know that that's the bid. We also know that under construction there are change orders that come forward that are unforeseen. So I would suspect that this $1.5 million is a minimum bid that probably will go much higher. Have we paid the engineers any money to date for the job that they've done, which was horrible?
I believe they have received some payment for that.
They
Yes,
have.
they've we have a contract with them that certain payment points that, along the way, and they obviously have a scope of services that they have to live up to. And part of that is the preparation of the specifications. There are some other aspects of it, like construction administration, that they clearly, if we don't move forward, they would not be able to bill us for that.
Have we looked into the possibility of any potential liability for the people who built this rink, or at least put this ice on, in terms of it failing this way? I know it's been, 10 years?
It has been 10 years, and we have looked at that, and we've done an analysis of that, and we continue to keep that option open, but, and I guess that's the best I should, or the most I should say at this particular point in time.
Okay. The other thing is that the last time we discussed this and we went for a bonding, you were going to be looking into potential revenue from the users and from the Arena Commission and everybody but the taxpayers. Have we made any headway there?
Well, the university has made agreed to a ticket surcharge that was going to pay a large part of the debt service associated with this project.
How about the Devils?
The Devils, it's in their contract that currently that's not an option, but it's something that we're exploring, and as I indicated earlier, I will be meeting with the Devils next week.
Well, I hope that you would point out to them that that should be some sort of an option, because the other option might be not to have any ice for them. I really think this is a horrible mess, and I would like to see that the debt service on this be by the people who are using it, whether we need to amend or find some way to bring the Devils to the table. When you look at the contract and you look at all the revenues they're receiving,
right.
And I don't mean the attendance, because that's a marketing problem, but all other revenues receiving, I think that they should recognize that if they're going to get a new rink, that they should help pay for the debt service. And I would keep that option of delay on the table if I were you, simply because we do not know the future of both those teams. And I would hate to spend all this kind of money to have public skating at the expense of some great shows like we had the other night. I think that arena could be utilized in a fashion that would produce money and make money if we weren't tied to the Devils' schedule and the University of Mass Lowell's schedule. And if indeed the skating is just a foregone conclusion going to end here, then we should really think of whether or not we want to do that at this time.
Okay, Councilor, I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To pick up on some of what my colleagues have indicated, we really need answers to some of these questions relative to the Devils, what's happening with UMass Lowell hockey and the like. I know that the current contract with the Devils, it's for another year, so we need to look at the implications of that particular contract. But what I'd like to do is to offer the services. I have a friend of my dad's, Doc Giannis. His son worked at the Giannis rink for, I think, 20 years, and he has offered his services just to come on a volunteer basis, especially now that you may be looking at trying to keep the ice in its current shape, if you will, for the next 12 months, that he would be willing to sit down and offer his opinion as to maybe how to keep it going for the next 12 months as a favor, if you will, to the community. He lives here in Lowell, and has been following this debate for the last few months. And I'd be happy to give you, Mr. Manager, his contact information. But again, as Councilor Armin Mercier has indicated, there are a number of other types of events that could possibly be held there, that if it ends up not being ice hockey, if you will, there could be other things. I know that up at the arena in Manchester, it seems that arena football seems to be taking off as of late. Whether or not SMG and Craig Gates can take a look at something like that for this particular arena is something that could be looked at as well. But clearly, as you indicated, Mr. Manager, we need to get answers on hockey in the next say 30 to 60 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As well as I know that Craig Gates is very creative, I'm sure he can do his wonders to get other events there, which brings me to segue in with Councilor Mercier had said earlier, that I think it's important that we know and have a firm commitment from UMass Lowell Hockey and the Devils hockey team to see where they stand here before I'm willing to commit any more money into this project, as well as if we could know how much revenue do we anticipate taking in if we didn't have the ice there. Probably we could figure that out and see. What Councilor Mercier said was right on the money and right in what I was going to say, but that's true. I think those are very good questions worth looking into.
And if I may,
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, once again, I think that they are the right questions. That's and it's Councilor Donahue pointed out at the outset. These are the questions that really need to be answered before we move forward, and those are the issues that we're trying to grapple with. And quite a bit of discussion today at the Arena Commission that I've had with the city staff to analyze the situation, to make a determination on what's in the best interest of the city, long range.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly agree with all my colleagues and you, Mr. Manager. I think it'd be wise to take a step back, take a look at the overall picture. And this bid is 60% higher than we anticipated. And I'm not surprised. The job is a humongous construction job. It's not just taking up the floor. As the manager indicated, the refrigeration unit is 5 or 6 tons. There's only one way of getting it out, and there's only one way of bringing a new one in, and that you have to create a door. And I can see the additional cost. But even if we decided to do this, there could be additional costs, overruns, and so forth. I am still a little upset with either the architect, the clerk of the works, or someone who ill-advised the commission to install a system. This system failed in every ice arena in New England and New York, and they still went ahead and put this system in. It was the wrong system for the wrong time, and I don't know what we can do as far as a legality issue, Mr. Manager, but I'd like to see you pursue that and see if there is something we can do, because that system failed everywhere. And it certainly is a proof that it failed here.
Thank you. Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I supported this because of our obligations in the future when we agreed to look to repair the ice. But as I realized that the number could double from the 1 million to possibly 2, I was hoping that maybe you could give us an idea as what our total exposure in the future is if we decided that we couldn't build it and we had to mitigate our cost, just to be able to have an idea. I'm not suggesting that that's an actual option, but it's important to know what the boundaries are on both lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else on this item? Okay. Any other questions or comments concerning other communications from the manager? Councilor Armin Mercier.
Just one quick question. We did get notified that we have a new purchasing agent.
Yes.
From Chelmsford.
It happens to be, yes.
Happens to be. Is that just coincidence?
It is just
somebody you knew?
coincidence. It is just coincidence.
Just thought I'd ask the question.
We had never met before.
Okay.
He comes very highly
Because I
recommended.
was going to start annexing maybe Chelmsford into Lowell or something.
Well, that's fine with me, but he comes with extensive experience working for the MBTA for the past 30 years,
Very good
doing
resume.
procurement for a multi, I think they're $1 billion now business.
It's a good resume, I just couldn't resist the pun.
I knew, Counselor, if you couldn't resist, you wouldn't. So, thank you.
Motion to accept the communications from the manager placed on file by Councilor Ramirez, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, the communications are accepted. We have one request for out-of-state travel from the city manager. Dear Mayor and Councilors, attached is a request from Michael McQuaid, Executive Director of the Career Center, to attend along with Barbara O'Neill, the WIB Director, the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment, and Training Conference. The conference will be held in Portland, Maine, May 9 and May 10th. The funds for this travel request come from the Career Center budget. Please let me know if you have any questions. Yours truly, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Elliott. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if it would be in order to request a suspension of rules to allow Chief DeRosa to address the council. I notice it's not on the agenda. I don't know if the manager had plans on how to bring it about,
You know,
instead of having him here
in
for the
fact,
whole evening.
Councilor, you're correct. That may have been my oversight, and I apologize for that.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Rita Mercia. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Chief, I believe this is going to be your last meeting with us, and so we'd
Yes,
be happy to hear from you.
Excuse me. Yes, Mr. Mayor, it is. Thank you for allowing me to speak before you, the mayor and the city councilors. I'll try to be very brief. Excuse me. As the mayor just said, you may know, at the end of this is the end of my 30-year career with the Lowell Fire Department, and I wanted to come before you to basically to say thank you very much. Excuse me.
Good
sorry,
thing
I've-
we brought you up quick.
Sorry, I've had a little cold since the flood, so I'm just trying to get over it. But I wanted to take this opportunity to express my thanks, both to the city of Lowell and the taxpayers here in Lowell for, first of all, giving me a job 30 years ago. Quite honestly, back then, unemployment lines were quite long, and I was very fortunate to get a job here in the city. And little did I know at that time that I was being introduced and given the opportunity to work in a very, one of the probably the greatest profession that I could have ever imagined. And personally and my family benefited greatly from that. But I also wanted to thank the members of the council and for working with me so diligently over the last 6 years as fire chief here in the city of Lowell. I want to thank you for your cooperation and your professionalism, and for making me feel part of the administration here in the city. And I think the department and the city benefited greatly for that, and it all has to do with you, and I thank you very much for that. I've enjoyed working both for you and along with you, looking out for the public safety here in the city, and I think, as I said, the citizens of the city benefited, the department benefited, and I know I did. There's a concept that we use in the fire department, and that is that we hope to leave the department a better department than the day that we were appointed. And I certainly think the department has changed greatly in 30 years, but I also think it has improved greatly in the same time. I look at the apparatus that we have today, the personal protective equipment of the firefighters, our policies, our procedures, services that we're able to provide. I think when we look at that, the last 30 years certainly has been a success, and that is directly goes along with the council and the taxpayers here in the city. I'd like to think that also it's the last 6 years under my term as chief, it's improved also. And I believe that these improvements have come about because of the cooperation and the focus on the fire protection by you, the city council, by the city manager, both the past and present managers and assistant city manager, but also the firefighters union and the firefighters themselves. I think working together and focusing on a common goal of improving the protection in the city is what accomplished that. I'm also very confident as I retire, passing the reins on to the next fire chief. I know the council will be able to embrace him. He's a wonderful and very intelligent person, and I think he's going to do a terrific job working for you and with you in the next time. And so in closing, I just want to reiterate my thanks to you all, and that has been my distinct honor and my distinct pleasure to have served the city for 30 years and to serve the city for the last 6 years as fire chief. And I thank you all very much.
And behind every good man is a good woman, and Norma DeRosa's here too as well. Let's give Norma a round of applause. All right.
Chief, why don't you stay there for a minute? I suspect there'll be a few people with something to say, but on behalf of the council, I want to say thank you to you. The fire department has certainly blossomed under your leadership. You've made numerous contributions. I know, as just one example, we have a hazmat team here that's the envy of every city our size in Massachusetts, and that's only one of your many significant accomplishments. So on behalf of the city, I'd like to say thank you to you, not only for your 30 years of service to the city, but also for your leadership and your very capable stewardship of the department during your years as chief. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, if I may, Chief, I'd like to echo what the mayor said. You and I have had an opportunity to work now for a number of months, and from the very beginning, I've been impressed by the professionalism that you bring to the position and to bring to the department, your leadership, your dedication. I think that clearly the department has been better off because of the service that you've provided to it, to the city of Lowell and its residents, and I'd like to thank you for the assistance that you've provided me over the last several months, and what I've learned about the city and the fire department came from you, and I feel that I know much more now about the department, about the city, and the value that they bring to the city, the department brings to the city. So I thank you for that. You made reference to the incoming chief, and over the next few days I will be making the necessary appointment advising the council. He has big shoes to fill, and again, I want to thank you.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you. Chief DeRosa was the ultimate professional, and the men and women of the Lowell Fire Department knew that. They respected him. But I'd just like to say that the chief was an absolute gentleman. No matter where he went, he conducted himself with class, and he represented the Lowell Fire Department, or he could have represented any fire department in this country with the ultimate class. And Chief, the entire council, and the Lynch administration, I know, wish you the best and Godspeed and health, you and your wife.
Council, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. I guess we will continue on. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll continue on with the agenda. The next item is a vote declaring surplus the property at 316 Lincoln Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcel, namely 316 Lincoln Street. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote declaring surplus the property at 316 Lincoln Street, Lowell, Mass., and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcel, namely 316 Lincoln Street. Questions? Motion to approve. Councilor Elliott, do you have a question?
Thank you. To the manager. Mr. Manager, this is a small lot, 3,200 square feet. I know we're asking a minimum price of $4,500. It's not a buildable lot. It's zone TTF. What do we anticipate, or do we anticipate anything at all being constructed on that lot?
Well, Councilor, I certainly think it's possible. It has to go through the procurement process, so it's open bidding. We have set this as the minimum bid. I would anticipate that it may have some interest to some of the abutters, and that being the case, there may be some possibilities of utilizing it for building a structure if it's combined with another lot. But at this point in time, it's unclear what that might be.
So there are two. It looks like there are two other lots, adjacent, or actually two or three. I mean, it's really a densely populated area. The memo says it was not considered for yard sale. Is it just because of the diminished value under that program? Is that why it was not considered?
Perhaps I'd refer that to Assistant City Manager Coggins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager. We don't normally, the restriction for the yard sale program is a much smaller piece of land and something that cannot be combined with another parcel to become buildable. The reason this is before you is obviously there's not a tremendous value here, but we were approached by a couple of the abutters who have an interest. One actually has a P&S for an adjoining piece of property. If that individual is successful in getting this piece of property, they can do a two-family home. Another abutter was interested in just having additional space, but it didn't fit the traditional program for the yard sale program that we have. So we decided to just go ahead. As you see in the, or should be in the memo, the appraised value was $4,000. The assessed value is $4,500. We went with the higher. And as the manager said, we're just trying to clear off the books and get rid of it.
How big is the that lot that's right next to it? I didn't think I saw it, Mr. Coggins.
There is one parcel under agreement that I believe is 17,000 square feet.
Okay. Does that include? I mean, is that on both sides of the road? I guess my concern is, is there just one parcel here, or is there two?
We are only disposing of one.
Right.
This is the city parcel is 3,353 square feet.
Right.
That's the only one that we are responsible for.
So with this other piece of property, would that make it a buildable lot, that the one that's immediately adjacent to it?
Yes, under the current zoning.
Under the current for another. So, and then the second piece of parcel of property, that would be eligible for another building?
The other interested party would not be looking to build upon it, no.
Okay. Okay. I was just concerned that they were, put this piece of property together with that other smaller piece, and then, so you'd have one two-family, and then, put two structures on that lot, and that just seems very, very small fit. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions? It's the wish of the council.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas, the vote is approved. The next vote is a vote authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in the total amount of $2,225,000 through the Massachusetts Opportunity Relocation and Expansion, called the MORE program, the More Jobs Capital Program, for infrastructure improvements on Chelmsford Street and to assist the relocation of GES US to Hale Street. Motion to waive the first full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in the total amount of $2,225,000 through the Massachusetts Opportunity Relocation and Expansion More Jobs Capital Program for infrastructure improvements on Chelmsford Street and to assist the relocation of GESUS to Hale Street. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It says in our memo for the vote that some of this money could be used to finance infrastructure improvements to facilitate the building of Lowe's Home Improvement Store. I thought that Lowe's had some sort of responsibility towards infrastructure. I thought that part of the mitigation plan was that they were going to do something. Are we now taking anything that they were committed to away from them and using this money for it? What's the story with this?
I'll ask Assistant Manager Coggins to address that.
Councilor, you're absolutely correct. As part of the approval they received from the Zoning Board of Appeals, National Development, on behalf of Lowe's, has a laundry list of things that they need to do, from sidewalk improvements to infrastructure issues with the sewer, et cetera. National Development identified this program, which started under the Romney administration and has been defined under the Patrick administration, as a means of helping to pay for that. If they are unsuccessful in this application, they are by no means relieved of their responsibilities to do all of those infrastructure improvements. They just identified a way that might help them pay for it. The city's role as this, the program requires that the city be a joint applicant, and it requires that the city be the fiscal agent if in fact the application is funded. But if it is not, then all of those other improvements are still going to be done at their cost.
And that's what I wanted to know. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Councilor Caulfield? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Manager, do you have something to add to that?
Just the only other point I would add to, and it's referenced in here, is that, and perhaps Mr. Coggins could speak to this, this would also assist in the relocation of the existing business to another location within the city to maintain those jobs within the city. That was crucial to us, that we not lose that business as a result of the Lowe's project.
Okay. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, this is going to improve the CSO problem. They're going to install a drainage up there and improve conditions up there as far as flooding and things of that nature. And as you pointed out, Mr. Manager, support the relocation of that other business. We don't want to lose them either. That's right.
Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I see this as a win-win. I mean, again, it's a good example of public-private partnership at its best, so I will support this vote. Thank you.
Anything further?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. The vote is approved. Next item is an appointment to the Board of Appeals. Dear Mayor and members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority specified under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 12, and the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 2-41, it is with pleasure I am appointing Corey Belanger, 59 Foster Street, Lowell, as a member of the Board of Appeals to fill the unexpired term of John Flynn, which term expires June 3rd, 2008, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified. Confirmation by the City Council is required for this appointment and is hereby requested. I would be happy to answer any inquiry you may have concerning this improvement. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Caulfield? Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the appointment is confirmed. Next item is an appointment to the License Commission. Dear Mayor Martin and members of the council, pursuant to the authority granted to me under Special Act Chapter 486 of the Acts of 1894 and the City Charter, Section 20, it is with pleasure that I appoint Raymond T. Weicker of 14 Watson Street, Unit 18, Lowell, to the Lowell License Commission to fill the unexpired term of Edward Finnegan, which term shall expire June 6, 2007, and to a further appoint to membership on the Lowell License Commission for an additional 6-year term effective June 6, 2007, which term shall expire June 6, 2013, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed, and qualified confirmation by the City Council is required for this appointment and is hereby requested. I would be happy to answer any inquiry you may have concerning this appointment. Enclosed, please find the resumes of all candidates interviewed for consideration. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the memo that we got, I just want to make it known that he returned from a 15-month mobilization and deployment to Baghdad, Iraq, and he also became a resident and homeowner in Lowell. So if I have nothing else to say, I want to say thank you, Mr. Weicker, for your service to your country.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councilor Broderick? Motion approved by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas, the appointment is confirmed. Next item is an appropriation transfer in City Council in order to meet fixed charges and current expenses of the City of Lowell for the year 2006-2007. It is ordered by the City Council of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $5,750 is hereby appropriated to Division of Planning and Development, Traffic Improvements and Signalization, and in order to provide for such appropriation, the above amount is hereby transferred for said purpose from Division of Planning and Development, Office Furniture and Equipment, $1,500, Division of Planning and Development, Computer Hardware Software, $1,250, Division of Planning and Development, Property Management, $3,000, for a total of $5,750 to cover funds to cover the cost of the annual pavement marking program. The funds will cover the cost of purchasing paint for use in the LPD sign shop in the designated areas, including labor costs and the additional contract for center lines, edge lines, skip lines, and key intersections. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Any questions? Councilor Elliott.
I'm going to support this because in light of the report that we received tonight, we clearly need to do as much as we can to prevent any traffic accidents. And this report that we received from you, Mr. Manager, on the worst 200 intersections in the state is really quite alarming. The reason being Lowell has 10 of the 200. In fact, the intersection of Bridge Street and Veterans, the VFW Highway, is the worst in the state. It's the #1 intersection in the state with over 200 crashes in the last 2 years. So I'm wondering if we can send this to the Public Safety Subcommittee and have the chief come in to see if there's some strategy to slow people down. I mean, all of the, probably known intersections are on here. Middlesex Street and Wood, Andover Street, Thorndike Street, Chelmsford, Industrial Ave. But it's really a significant problem that we need to deal with in the city, and apparently it's just slowing people down. So, it's good to receive this report. Unfortunately, we have some of the worst intersections, or intersections causing traffic and traffic crashes in the state.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Manager.
Councilor, thank you. When I received this report, I felt it was important that we get this to the council so that they could see some of the traffic issues that we are trying to deal with out there. As you point out, the particular intersection at Bridge Street and the VFW Highway is very bad. It's the #1 accident location, as you pointed out. We are working jointly with the Mass Highway, the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, our own DPW, as well as DPD and the police department to develop a strategy. The first step in this is, as I point out in the letter that I've sent on to you, is that Mass Highway has already engaged a consultant to conduct a safety audit at that location, which will then result in a redesign of that particular intersection. So I'd be happy to, bring that information back to the council as it becomes available. And I believe at one point in time, the neighborhood and traffic subcommittee took up some of these same issues, and be happy to keep them in the loop as we move forward on this as well.
Traffic, it doesn't matter, as long as it goes somewhere and the report doesn't, and I'm not saying that it's going to, but I think a full discussion, and as you said, you're going to have an audit done on these intersections and come up with some solutions, because things obviously aren't getting any better. And unless we do something about it and take a proactive approach, we're going to continue to have some serious public safety hazards at these intersections.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
If I may, Councilor, it may make sense to have that audit completed and then bring it back to the neighborhood subcommittee, traffic subcommittee, when it becomes available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council owes a great deal of gratitude to Beverly Woods, member of the NEMCOG, who attended our meeting, and they are looking at 10 intersections that are a total hazard. Bridge Street's one of them. It goes all the way to VFW Highway to Wood Street, and she's working with us and helping us as well, and I'm looking forward to that positive report, hopefully.
Okay. Motion to refer the report to the traffic subcommittee on completion of the audit by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the traffic subcommittee. On the budget transfer, any further discussion on that item? Motion to approve by Councilor Milanazzo, second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Okay. Under reports, we have one report from the wire inspector on the Verizon request to place 10 feet of conduit in Smith Street. Motion to accept and adopt the accompanying order by Councilor Milanazzo, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The order is adopted. Subcommittee reports. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules Subcommittee met at 5:30 today to deal with the issue of the Lord's Prayer. We had, along with myself, Councilor Armin Mercier and Councilor Rita Mercier, we also had City Solicitor Chris O'Connor, as well as representatives from the Greater Lowell Interfaith Alliance, and I believe they're still here behind me, waiting for this report of the subcommittee. The subcommittee is recommending that the council, with a vote of 2-1, recommending that the City Council adopt a non-sectarian prayer policy. This is one of the options that City Solicitor O'Connor had given us back in March. If you recall, her opinion, which was dated March 6th, talked about adopting the non-sectarian prayer policy or engaging in a moment of silence or choosing to not engage in any prayer at all. And as I stated, after much discussion and after many meetings and input from other councilors as well as representatives from GLELA, we were recommending to the full council to adopt a non-sectarian prayer policy. I also left on each councilor's desk this evening 3 prayers that had been sent to us by GLELA. Both Councilor Rita Mercier and I are interested in prayer number 1, but again, I would defer it to the solicitor as to the direction that debate takes. But again, as I stated, our recommendation is to go forward with the non-sectarian prayer policy. Councilor Armin Mercier, who did not vote in favor, has requested that he be given an opportunity to give a minority opinion. So I would now defer to my colleague, Councilor Armin Mercier, to give the opposing view.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor. In the 40 years that I've been in public service, I never thought I would be reaching a point of debating whether or not the Lord's Prayer should be said prior to a city council meeting. However, the times are here and the moment is here. The original intent of the organization was to see if the Lord's Prayer could be supplemented with other prayers. And that didn't seem to prove to be feasible at all. And ultimately, we got to a point where a legal opinion was issued by our solicitor's office regarding the constitutionality of the Lord's Prayer. Although I respect the city solicitor, I don't necessarily agree that that's what would come down if this was ever put to a test. I strongly believe that the Lord's Prayer is a prayer that's not offensive to anyone. It has been around here for many, many years, and it's never really been seriously challenged simply because it's a good prayer. Now, somebody comes in and talks about non-sectarian prayer, sectarian prayer, and then it goes to the legal department, and I knew the end results of getting this to the legal department would put us in the position that we're in, because they're doing the job as they understand it to be. However, when you look at the prayers that are being suggested, every single one of them has "Dear God" in it and "Amen." Now, to me, that doesn't make it non-sectarian. The Lord's Prayer talks about "Our Father who art in heaven" and so forth. And so one prayer was presented by the Baptist Church in North Carolina, another one by the St. Paul Lutheran Church in York, Pennsylvania, and then another one, the Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish in Lexington Park, Maryland. I think they're all great prayers, and I do not think that the intention of the organization that brought this issue forward was not well intended. I'm sure it is well intended. They represent 40 people in their organization that feels very passionate and strongly about this. However, as I pointed out at the subcommittee meeting, they don't represent all of the organizations that exist in the city. And that, in my opinion, we're opening up a Pandora's box that will now allow, or rather encourage or entice, other organizations, other groups of religious individuals to come forward with their prayer. Now, there are more than 5 or 6 religious organizations in this city. There are much more than that. We have the Cambodians, the Vietnamese, the South, we have just so many of them. I don't see why we should set aside the Lord's Prayer at this point in time for any other prayer that basically addresses the Lord and addresses religion as we all know it. Now, I know that the city solicitor's office differs on this, but I honestly and truly believe that if this was put to a test, and I'm not so sure anyone would put it to a test, that I don't think the Lord's Prayer would be banished from the City Hall or from the public meetings that we have. Again, well-intended. I think, however, that there's an awful lot not said about other groups that will be said. It was mentioned to me that if we continue saying the Lord's Prayer, then we'll be challenged by ACLU or some other organization. Well, the fact remains, if we say any prayer, that can be challenged also. It's not just the Lord's Prayer. And so the real alternative, if everybody wanted to be straightforward with this, is to not have any prayers. And I don't believe that this is a time and age to eliminate prayers in our public body. And so I vehemently oppose replacing the Lord's Prayer with any of the prayers that were presented. I think we ought to continue with the Lord's Prayer. It's a great prayer. It offends no one. And in all the years that I've been around, I don't think that that has caused any problems whatsoever. I'm just sorry that it reached the point that it is. And I know that the original intention was to add prayers and not necessarily to replace prayers. However, we've reached a point after all these months of negotiations and discussions and public hearings, including the weighing in on the part of the city solicitor, that we are now talking about replacing the Lord's Prayer, something I absolutely do not agree with. That's a minority report. I would urge the city council to really think this out. I think that if we do start replacing the Lord's Prayer with other prayers, we're going to be in the same predicament that we are in now. And I don't think that we should be put in that position. So I firmly believe that we should maintain our position, continue saying the Lord's Prayer, and let's move on this. And there are a lot more important things on our agenda as a city government than dealing with this issue. So I will not vote to replace the Lord's Prayer because I don't think it's going to do it's going to accomplish anything except more chaos as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's my minority report, and I would hope that some of the councilors would bear witness to me that the Lord's Prayer should be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, am a member of the subcommittee, and many, many, many months ago, I received a call from people associated with Galila, asked if they could sit down with me and have a meeting, as they were going to ask every councilor to do the same. I don't know who met, but I know that I did. There are people on the radio that perhaps say that, why did we even answer the phone? Why did we entertain such a thing. I think part of my obligation and duty sitting here is to not discriminate and say, well, that's a tough issue, I don't want to go there, I'm going to hang up the phone, I don't want to talk to you. I have to address what comes before me. That's just what I think this position is all about. So I did meet with them. They did tell me their opinion, and I was hoping in the back of my mind that if we did get a ruling, that the traditional rule of a 40-year prayer would stand firm. Now, I didn't ask for an opinion solely myself, but we thought it would be wise if we asked for an opinion from the city solicitor, which we did, and I would have been thrilled if she would have came back and said, the 40-year tradition reigns supreme. That would have been easy. That would have been what I wanted. This, incidentally, is my prayer. It's my prayer because I am Catholic. Is it fair, though? They're raising a good question. 40 years ago, we did not have ethnic diversity as we see it now, that we have 19 flag raisings on the steps of City Hall, and we raise the flag of many nations alongside of ours. When you talk about the Lord's Prayer and you say, there's nothing in that that's different, it says God, it says amen, you're absolutely right, and I commend my colleague to the right, Councilor Mercia, for everything he said is firmly what I believe in, but I do have to go with the side of the law, what is right, what is fair. I admire your belief. I'm not that strong probably, because if I were sitting here, I would want to bring my opinion to the table, but it is not just my opinion. It is weighing a number of factors. When you think of the Our Father, it is a Catholic prayer. We're not saying, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever, amen. That would be the Protestant version. We're eliminating that. We are saying a prayer that is denominational because it's in the Bible. It is the greatest prayer that Jesus told us to speak, to say. God, that's God's prayer, and that is my belief. But I think that when we asked for an opinion from the solicitor, do I just throw what her opinion says out the door and says, I don't want to hear that, so I'm not going to listen to that? But what she said was that no other community, and of course we can defy it. I can defy the law. I can say, I don't want to listen to the law. I don't think that people would want me to sit here and defy the law. I have to weigh everything that I take in. I want to say that I got an opinion. The opinion says that this is not really fair. This is a question about being fair. This is 40 different type of people that are coming out of many diversities that are saying that we're not against prayer. They never from the instant said that they wanted to eliminate prayer. We had many options. Do we want a moment of silence? But I don't want to just sit here and stare into oblivion and think about, am I going to cut the grass tonight, or am I going to water the plants when I go home? Okay, amen. But that's not what I want to do. They want a prayer. I want a prayer. I wish it were the Our Father, but that's not what it is. I'm just thinking that this prayer that they presented before us were 3 prayers. The first one says, Almighty God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of the city. That's what we're sitting here for, to make a decision process. We pray for direction. We're asking for direction, and that's what they say in Congress. Every one of these 3 prayers, and I'm not saying that we're saying the 3 prayers, have been said in Congress. We pray for direction, which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions that will be pleasing to you, a higher power. We're not saying the word higher power or God or Jesus or whatever, or Muhammad or Buddha, but to you, and which will be good for the city. So we're praying for guidance, direction, something that will be pleasing to our Maker, something that will be pleasing to our city. I see nothing wrong with this. I love my Our Father, but it's a Catholic prayer. It's my prayer. Is it selfish of me to sit here and say, well, the majority of us are Catholics. We're going to say the Our Father, and we don't care what Christine O'Connor says. We don't care what these people behind us say. but it's what I want. But it's a matter of being fair, in my opinion. My decision is, and I made the motion, that we adopt a policy to say a non-sectarian prayer that will be equal and unified and the same every time, that we're not focusing on one religion over another. And I think it's a matter of fairness, and that's why I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. As chairman of the subcommittee, we did put a lot of time and effort into this, and I want to thank both Councilors Rita Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier for their time and effort, as well as City Solicitor O'Connor. But I have to say that as a practicing Catholic for over 50 years, this was a difficult vote for me to go in the direction of a non-sectarian prayer. But as an elected public official and not as an elected Catholic official, it's really the right thing to do. I mean, we represent all types of denominations, all types of ethnic and cultural groups and religious groups that Councilor Rita Mercier mentioned. So I think, based upon the opinion from the solicitor, excuse me, I think that the recommendation of the subcommittee should be supported by the full council. And again, in closing, I want to thank both Councilor Rita Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier for putting the time and effort into this subcommittee. I don't know if there's any other issues to come before the Rules Subcommittee, but if there is, Mr. Mayor, we stand ready to serve.
Thank you. Councilor, could you restate the recommendation again, please?
The recommendation is to have the full council support the creation of a non-sectarian prayer policy.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is I've given it the same due process that Mr. Milanazzo has. As a practicing Catholic and one who's attended Catholic schools and one who believes in the power of prayer, I've given this issue a lot of thought, and I have not, it's not one that I take lightly. And as I've given it all that thought, the one question that kept coming to mind for me was, why do we do it? And I can't seem to answer that in my mind, because we all come here with all the right intentions. We all come here to do what's right, to do the people's work. And so I want to thank the subcommittee for all the hard work that they've done, and have met and they've made some recommendations. But at this time, I'm not going to support the recommendation. I believe that it is wise not to choose one prayer over another and one faith over another. But the non-sectarian prayer still does not answer the question to me as to why we do it. Again, we all come here with all the good intentions. I could support a moment of silence, but that's not what's before us. So again, with all due respect to the subcommittee and all the hard work that they've done, I'm not going to support the recommendation because I'm going to go one step further and say that instead of choosing, why don't we just abolish it altogether and come here to do the work that we're elected to do. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
I was just going to suggest that. I think the people at home and the people that elect us to come here to do a job, the job is not to come here to pray. I mean, that it is something that we have done, and it's been done for many years. The Supreme Court has ruled that the Lord's Prayer is a prayer for a separate, a distinct religion, that of Christianity, and I am not going to support the recommendation either. I appreciate the work the subcommittee has done. I attended some of the meetings, and I've been in touch with Councilor Milanazzo, and I think he's trying to do the best that he can, as well as the Interfaith Alliance that clearly felt that they were alienated with that prayer, and they're trying to bring together some compromise that will appease everybody. In my opinion, I happen to agree with Councilor Ramirez. The best thing might just be to eliminate it. Come here, say the Pledge of Allegiance, which is done in all the public, buildings, schools, etc., and get down to business. Unfortunately, I'm a Catholic. I go to church on Sunday. That's where I pray. As an elected official, we come here and we do the business of the people. And it's not a slight to anybody, nor the work that either of these organizations have done. But it's something that has been challenged in other places other than the city of Lowell. Most communities, most elected bodies don't have this say a prayer before. We're here to do a job, and maybe that's what we need to do, as unfortunate as it may be for, for some of us that are Catholics or those that appreciate the Lord's Prayer. But it does upset and offend others, and no one's trying to be politically correct. It's been challenged, it's been ruled upon, and I think we need to be here to do the business that we need to do, and we have plenty of it to do. So I appreciate it. Thank you to the subcommittee and members of the Interfaith Alliance that have really done yeoman's work to forge a compromise, but that's how I feel.
Thank you. Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The subcommittee had a huge task before them, and I really applaud them for their guidance and their courage to bring this forward. The Lord's Prayer, although there might be various versions, it is a Christian's prayer. It's not just a Catholic, it's a Christian prayer for Christians. I have a question to the solicitor. The council received a notification from a firm in Washington regarding separation of church and state, indicating if we continued with the Lord's Prayer, they would see us in court. But yet, what makes you think, Madam Solicitor, if we recite one of these three prayers, they wouldn't also send us a letter and say we're going to see you in court?
Madam Solicitor, you...
And I really listened closely to Councilor Ahmed Mercier, and he has a lot of merit in his discussion. And if we select one of these prayers, we're still indicating we're asking for God's guidance, which might offend someone else who doesn't necessarily believe in God. And what makes you think that that group in Washington wouldn't come down and question our wisdom reciting one of these prayers?
Sure. Of course, anybody could challenge anything going down the road. Essentially, the opinion that was given to you, though, highlights a couple of things. One, it's certainly legally permissible to have non-sectarian legislative prayer. That's clear. The Supreme Court has ruled that, as well as all of the federal circuits that have then followed. The distinction, and I understand the points that Councilor Mercier makes, Armin Mercier, but the distinction between the Lord's Prayer with some of these other non-sectarian prayers is that it is the Lord's Prayer. It's a prayer that was taught to Christians, Catholics, by Jesus Christ. That's what, and it's distinctly part of the entire Christian tradition. That's what makes it a sectarian prayer. That's what makes it an impermissible prayer. Going beyond that, that's again not to say that you cannot have non-sectarian prayer. It's permissible if the council wishes to entertain or go down that type of a path or practice.
So, Madam Solicitor, you're saying that the ACLU or other groups wouldn't come forward and challenge us on this issue?
I'm not saying that they wouldn't. I'm just saying that legally,
they could.
I think they could challenge us on anybody can challenge us on any particular policy or practice that we have. I guess my point is that I think that legally we would be on safe ground adopting some sort of a non-sectarian practice, as we would if the council were to adopt a moment of silence, or if the council chose to not engage in the practice of prayer at all. There's nothing wrong with any of those choices. I think that there is a distinct problem in continuing to engage in a prayer that is clearly sectarian and advances one particular faith, in this case Christianity, or more specifically Catholicism. And And I think that also that the point that was raised by Councilor Mercier is a very good one in the sense that, by the same token, not only would that be impermissible, but had the council done nothing in light of challenges to that, by the very virtue of having done nothing would have also opened the door to some sort of a constitutional challenge, and those federal circuits that have looked at, whether it be a school committee or a city council, that have engaged in that type of practice of deliberately not changing from their past practice, has been struck down.
But
so, I mean, it could be struck down. I will say that at the last subcommittee meeting that we had, there was somebody representing a group of atheists who had read over the opinion, who was in agreement with it, who held out some reservation at the possibility of using the word God, as was discussed in the subcommittee meeting. Words such as God, Creator, Almighty, courts have generally found to be non-sectarian in nature, and as in fact one of the members of GLELA had addressed in the subcommittee meeting, that when people use the word God, they are referring to their own God, but not necessarily to a specific God. And for those reasons, courts have generally allowed, or have allowed that.
Once again, I want to thank the subcommittee. It's a tough decision you made. And believe me, Madam Solicitor, I'm listening to you very carefully, but where I'm coming from is there are people who don't believe in God, and those people would have the same right to come down and say, you can't say that. And when this first started, I said, we're going to end up with nothing. And it's a shame, it really is. And I think my intentions and my colleagues' intentions was to just say a prayer, the Lord's Prayer, and that prayer was going out to 108,000 people in this city. So.
Right, and again, the only thing I would say in response to that is that the Supreme Court has ruled definitively in that it is permissible, should a legislative body wish to engage in legislative prayer, it's certainly a permissible practice. And someone can challenge it, but I don't think that they would have a lot of luck, quite frankly.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, for a point of clarification, the three proposed non-sectarian prayers, 1, 2, and 3, all of those pass constitutional scrutiny, Madam Solicitor?
I would say so, to the best of my ability. And it's my understanding that GLELA has in fact placed them in an order of preference, their own preference. One being, in their opinion, the most sort of applicable to the function of the City Council.
Right. And I note that all three of them have been offered in the United States House of Representatives, Congress in Washington. Is that my understanding? And let me ask, at one point we had an opinion that said, and this was in the early stages of the subcommittee, I think, and I don't want to misstate it, but there was some talk about someone other than the council reciting a prayer. For example, a representative from the Interfaith Alliance coming each week and making a recitation. Is that something that's required under the interpretation from the Supreme Court or under the law, or not?
That's something that, it's a good question. That's something that is more typical in terms of legislative prayer. I think particularly with the larger the legislative body, the more common a practice it is that there would actually be a chaplain available. Congress pays to have that position. And that certainly would be an option to the council. That being said, there's nothing that I came across that would suggest that if you didn't have a chaplain leading a legislative body in the prayer, that would create a problem.
And through you, I guess, to the subcommittee or to the chair, so the recommendation is that a policy be established, or who will do that? Will that go to the rules subcommittee, or what is the intent?
It will be drawn up by the solicitor's office.
All right, so then what we're being asked to do tonight is to refer it to the solicitor's office to come back to us.
Correct, right.
Okay, so and then when it comes back, would have to take action on whatever the policy is. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. And
Okay.
the other option would be that the council could adopt, a practice, an informal, informally adopt a practice even this evening of whatever the council intends to do. Would be another option.
Well, I mean, we have talked about this at length, and it's abundantly clear that our 40-plus year tradition of reciting the Lord's Prayer is not constitutionally acceptable under the law. It's unfortunate because we looked at it at one point out of custom or history and whether that was an exception. Because obviously everybody's well-intentioned and it's something that the city of Lowell has done. But I'm convinced, based on all the opinions and all the discussions that we've had here, that it's not allowed as a matter of law. And so now we're being asked, I guess our choices are two in principle. We either come up with a compromise, which is what this is in essence, is a compromise that does meet, constitutional scrutiny or will be accepted, or we abandon the whole thing altogether. We just say, look, this is just, if we can't do this by way of tradition, what we've done, then let's not do anything, because we're trying to start a new tradition. We're trying to be within the bounds of the law. So that seems to be where we are, and quite honestly, I mean, I know the subcommittee's done a lot of work. My concern is that we abide by the law, and we can't guarantee that someone down the road isn't going to bring another lawsuit or bring a lawsuit against the city. But the only thing we can do is proceed with good advice and the advice that we're within constitutional bounds. So that said, I guess it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Really, it seems this compromise is a compromise. If the council believes that we should be seeking guidance at the opening of each session, and this compromise does that, and this compromise is asking in constitutionally acceptable speech, then I don't have a problem getting a recommendation back as far as what that policy should be. But I think we have to be very clear on what the policy is, because I don't think it should be a loose situation. I think, we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is something that has been examined, that we do have an opinion, and we understand what it is that we're voting on and how we proceed. I mean, I see prayers 1, 2, and 3. I guess what, because of discussions we've had before, we could have other, entities coming into the council and asking us to entertain, 5, 6, and 7, and that's something that I would not be interested in doing. And that's why I think, I would be looking for some recommendation and a policy that's very clear as to what we can and what we can't do, and that we're not opening Pandora's box here. Because if that were the case, I'd support let's just eliminate it if that's the case.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize to the subcommittee. I was unable to attend this evening, but at past meetings, I partially agree with Councilor Armin Mercier in this debate, in that it has been the practice, and it's my prayer also. It's awkward to say I don't think we should do it anymore, but legally, I think it's pretty clear that it's not constitutionally accepted and we can't do it. I also agree that it's a tough day and age to just totally cast it aside, prayer, the idea of prayer or a higher power. Although it was my prayer, where I differ from Councilor Armin Mercier, that although it was my prayer, that doesn't mean that there aren't people that are offended by it or that don't like it, because it's not their prayer. And in an effort to compromise so that our entire constituency is included, to come up with one of these compromises that's acceptable. I think the key has got to be, it needs to be clearly defined what it's going to be, and not some type of revolving missive that we have to have a prayer book at our desk. This isn't the House of Representatives where we have people flying in to say a prayer for us every week. But I think if it's something that can be clearly defined as a policy, I pray at Sundays at church, so I don't need to say my prayer here. I think that in terms of asking for guidance, if that can be done and include our constituency, the people that live in the city, that is a much broader base. The other part of that that was brought up, and I asked this question at one of the initial meetings, is how do we know everyone's here? How, everyone's represented. I was assured by some of the people there, the leaders that are much better informed than I am, that all of these, everybody that we could, nationality and race that we could rattle off, they were included somehow, whether as Buddhists, the Orthodox, the different religions were included. I think in what they narrowed down to 5 prayers that they initially wanted the council to accept and add on as an additional prayer. So I'm fairly secure in the fact that they've done their homework and that this is going to satisfy as best we can, other than just saying no prayer. And I guess that would be the next step, but I think I would support having some type of prayer at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Yeah, just a point of clarification here, because what's before us is adopting a policy that clearly will not allow the Lord's Prayer to be said. Exactly what that is. The city solicitor has issued her opinion, and you people who are in the law business know that if you got another opinion, it might be different. I'm saying it was never an issue in this city of the constitutionality of the Lord's Prayer. Now, it's easy if you're in favor of what is being proposed to hang your hat on that, and I respect that. But see, I don't necessarily believe that because there was a case study that had nothing to do with Lowell, and I don't even suspect it had anything to do with the Lord's Prayer. It had to do with non-sectarian as opposed to sectarian. Well, who makes that determination? Who says that these prayers here are non-sectarian? It wasn't the court. And so I really, truly believe that we should maintain saying the Lord's Prayer and not to be feared by the fact that some high court is going to come down and say, all right, Lowell City Council, you're violating the Constitution. If that would have been able to happen, it would have happened in the last 40 years. It hasn't happened. And so I really strongly believe that no matter what you replace the Lord's Prayer with, it's still going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue for people who don't want us to pray at all, no matter what the city solicitor says. She said a little while ago that the non-sectarian prayers may have a better chance in court, but she didn't say that it wouldn't be thrown out in court also, or wouldn't be found unconstitutional, or rather. So, I really believe that voting for the recommendation of the subcommittee is clearly stating that the Lord's Prayer will not be said in these chambers for whatever individual reason councils have. That's what you're voting on. It's not to develop a policy. The only policy that gets developed is which one of these prayers is going to be acceptable to the city council. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to state that when we began this debate many, many months ago, in talking with representatives from Gleeler, again, their goal, and I don't want to speak for them, was that, in fact, I'll read a quote from one note, that it was, "I pray we're not going to lose prayer altogether." And that's been my premise since we began these discussions. And I'm not looking to have a moment of silence. I'm not looking to do away with prayer altogether. Again, I voted to support the recommendation of Council Rita Mercier to go with a non-sectarian prayer. And I believe the power of prayer is important. And I feel very comfortable voting for the recommendation. And if it has to go to the solicitor's office for the policy to be drawn up to have councilors be more comfortable with the recommendation, so be it. We've been debating this for many, many months. But again, I do think there will be challenges if we continue using the Lord's Prayer going forward. Again, even though it's been something that's been done for over 40 years, I do think it's time to deal with the issue and to, in my opinion, to support the non-sectarian prayer approach.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor,
If I could, just one more point. If there is a challenge, I would hope that GLELA would stand with the city in fending off any type of challenge like that, if that's something that ever did happen. And again, I'm not speaking for them, but we've been talking about this for many, many months.
Thank you. Councilor, you assume the chair. Well, since
Chair
everybody
recognizes Mayor Martin.
Sorry. Since everybody's weighed in on this issue, I thought I should at least explain the reasons for my vote. I am going to support the recommendation of the subcommittee. I do not take that step lightly. I know this has been the matter of considerable discussion now for many months. I'm well aware of the traditions of this council, and particularly the Catholic tradition. I don't know that there's anybody... I know we're all practicing Catholics here. I spent 19 years in Catholic schools, and so to recite a Catholic prayer, I think, is very near and dear to me. It's something that I try and do in my household and in my faith, and impart that on to my children. However, we do have, I think, a clear opinion from the city solicitor. Not that I want to hang my decision on that, but with all due respect to my colleague, to simply say that, well, other lawyers could disagree, I don't think is fair to the process of law. There are principles in the law that are well settled. This one is one of them. That's not to say it couldn't change at some point in the future. A different Supreme Court, I guess, could rule otherwise, but it is as settled as it can be. And so I do think we should respect the constitutional principles that we take an oath here every January to uphold. So I am going to do that. I do not, as I said, take the decision lightly, but I do think we have clear guidance that what we are proposing, what we do, our practice now, is not within the bounds of the law. It's also really a changing city that we need to recognize. Even though all of us here are Catholics, and I presume a majority of the voters that put us here are Catholics, not all the residents of the city are. We have had much immigration from other parts of the world over the last 40 years. Most of the early immigrants from this country came from Europe, where Catholic religion dominated. Now we have residents from Asia, we have residents from Africa, we have residents from all parts of the globe here in the city. And I think when I have people come to these chambers, most of them, when they're here for the first time, are surprised by our practice, because it's not something they anticipate a governmental body doing. So, and I guess the last point I would make is that I do think it's important for prayer in this world. I was at a Rotary meeting today. I was invited to speak to the Rotary Club. They recite a prayer at the start of their meetings, very similar to these that are before us for consideration this evening. Now, there's a group of dedicated Lowellians, very patriotic people. They sing patriotic songs at their meetings, and they have seen fit to have a prayer very similar to the ones that are suggested to us. So I do, have thought this through carefully. I think it's the best decision we can make at the present time. I do want to express my thanks to the subcommittee. I know Councilor Milanazzo and Councilor Rita Mercier were appointed because they had early meetings with the GLELA group. Councilor Armin Mercier really just expressed interest in some other rules and had nothing really originally to do with this issue, but I thought we would be taking up other rules in the subcommittee, so I particularly appreciate his service as well.
I know it's been a time-consuming issue that people feel passionately about, but I am going to support the recommendation of the subcommittee. Thought it would be appropriate for me to explain why.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody else on this issue? Excuse me. Yes, Councilor Elliott.
I just wanted to get it clear. I know Council Mercy asked for clarification, but I'm still not clear. There are 3 prayers. The recommendation is for one of those prayers to do what? What policy are we looking for? We either going to say the prayer or not say the prayer? I'm not sure. Is it to work out who is going to come in and say the prayer? I mean, what policy? We're either voting for the prayer that has been recommended or not, correct?
What had occurred in the subcommittee meeting was a discussion as to whether to open, just have basically a general non-sectarian prayer policy whereby anybody could come in with a non-sectarian prayer. It would be monitored in some fashion to make sure that it's conforming, or, which is what the subcommittee adopted, is to essentially have a non-sectarian prayer practice whereby there would be one prayer. Glila had essentially recommended this first prayer, and the prayer would be said by the members of the legislative body. That's, I believe, essentially the scope of the practice and policy that was recommended by the subcommittee. Of course, the law department can draft that up and have that before the council in a more formal way, but that's essentially the recommendation, I believe, of the subcommittee.
Okay, so just real straight, we're adopting this prayer number 2. That's it. I'm missing what the policy is going to be.
The policy.
Are we trying to? I mean, I think that's what Councilor Donahue, and we're trying to get. Can we just say it in real, like,
Sure.
2 sentences?
Yeah, I could say it in one.
Okay, one.
I could name that tune in. The policy is to adopt a non-sectarian prayer practice.
Which is number 2, correct?
No, number 1.
Number 1. Okay, number 1.
Well,
and it's going to be said by the mayor or somebody.
It would be recited by the legislative body.
Together.
Correct.
Together.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Rita Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. But we're not saying that we're going to have people coming in every other week to do that.
No.
That's too confusing.
That's what I wanted
We're
to
going to
make
be
clear.
saying number 1 if you so choose. And I know that we heard from the city clerk when he said maybe 12, 14 years ago when Tassi Poulias was the mayor, and there was a principle whereby they had someone from each denomination come forward and say a prayer, and it took off for a while, and then it just fell by the wayside, and I don't want to get into all that.
Would my colleagues indulge me for 1 minute and ask Rochelle Comtois, who is with Glila, who's had her hand up, in fairness, to say a few words? Is that okay with the board, the body?
Yes.
Thank you.
I wasn't planning to talk. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Dr. Rochelle Comtois. I'm from Centerville area. I grew up in St. Louis Parish, and of course it closed a couple of years ago, and I joined St. Patrick's Church since that time. And I'm also a member of the Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance, and I'm the chair of this subcommittee on the prayer, changing the format of the prayer. And I just, since the president of the organization isn't here this evening, I thought that it would be important for me to say a couple of things. And I appreciate the time and the effort that you've put into this, because it's very important, particularly because the face of Lowell has changed. And the population of the Buddhist community and the Islamic community continues to grow. And we, as a city, has always been proud of being a welcoming city, a city that's diverse, but also a diverse in faith. And I think it's very important that we are a city that prays. And we're in a time where we really need to pray, with so much crisis everywhere, that I really think, and we all do, and the Glila members all believe that. But what I wanted to take up is Councilor Romero's question, where he says, why do we do it? Why do we pray? Well, that was the question we were asking when everybody was saying the Lord's Prayer. Everybody was saying it, reciting it, and those who were here who knew it said it, and those who didn't just listened. And it didn't bring in the whole city. It didn't say, we're all here. And when we say a prayer that's non-sectarian, we're saying we all are represented here in the city. And it also says, when we pray, I don't know about you, sometimes we don't know if prayers are answered. We don't know if we're praying for one another, if we're praying for the city council or the city people who live in the city. We don't know who we're praying for, and we don't know why we pray. But I think we pray because it changes us. That's the most important thing. Prayer changes our hearts. And sometimes we're here in the city council chambers and we're passionate about an issue and no one's listening. That prayer is important. And so that I just wanted to say that please do not consider taking it away, but changing it. And you know what? Who cares? If someone comes over and starts attacking the way we pray, we'll deal with that when it comes. But what we need now is to say we are going to continue praying together in the city. And thank you for listening to me. I don't want to.
Thank you very much. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Whether we select prayer 1, 2, or 3, God is in that prayer. We're keeping God to the forefront, God in our hearts, and God throughout the entire city. Although I like the Lord's Prayer, I will support the recommendation brought forward by the subcommittee, and it was a huge issue, and I applaud the three of you for sitting in on that, and it was a tough decision. But I do know that if we continue with the Lord's Prayer, that this group in Washington or anyone else is going to come in here and challenge us in the court. I just hope they don't challenge us with one of these prayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Roll call. Move the question.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
No.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
No.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
No.
6 yeas, 3 nays, the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you for your patience this evening and throughout this process. Further subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none. On the petitions, we have a petition for a poll location from Verizon New England, 1 poll location on Burt Street. Matters to be referred to a public hearing on May 8th. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matters referred to a public hearing May 8th. We have 2 other petitions, one petition for National Grid to place 2 4-feet PVC pipes in Hall Street. That's also to be referred to a public hearing on May 8th. So moved by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to a public hearing on May 8th. There are 3 claims for personal injury. Motion to refer to the Law Department by Councilor Ramirez, second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matters are referred to the Law Department. Under the motions...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Under the subcommittee reports, this isn't actually a subcommittee report, but I wanted to just briefly talk about an upcoming event that will happen this Friday, April 27th, from 6 to 9 at the Whistler House Museum of Art for the benefit of Youth Enhancement Services. It's called Bids for Kids. It's an original art auction to benefit and improve the lives of children with emotional, developmental, or behavioral challenges. This is a nonprofit corporation that helps each child reach his or her full potential in school. They offer after-school programming as well as summer camp, field trips, and anything else that benefit our children. So thank you for letting me say that. If anybody is interested, it's going to be a nice time this Friday, 6 to 9 at the Whistler House. Thank you.
Thank you. Under the motions, the Councilor Caulfield's motion has been acted upon already. Councilor Elliott has the next motion. The City Council requests the City Manager report on the demolition of the historic firehouse on Westford Street. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott. There is somebody registered to speak.
Right.
If you just come forward, give your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Jason Strunk, 66 Vernon Street, Lowell, and I'm also a member of the city's fire department. I have a handout for each member of the council and also for the manager if you'd like one. I want to thank Councilor Elliott for inviting me to speak on this. I wanted to bring this to the city's attention. The building is something of interest to me and a group of firefighters who would like to at some point start a firefighting museum in the city. This building had been on our radar for a while, and when the Archdiocese and the St. Julie Asian Center ceased to use it last summer, we inquired with the real estate agent, and we were told that it was up for bid, and we didn't have the resources to put a bid on that, so unfortunately we had to let it go by. The building was from 1890 to 1920 was a truck house. It's the only such firehouse built to house specifically a ladder truck in the city. It was only in service for a short time, but it was a very distinctive building in terms of its structure, its purpose, where it was located, and why. Because we didn't have the resources to pursue this, when I spoke with the real estate agent, Mr. Harkins, he advised me it would likely become condominiums, which I thought was a great use for an old property like this, similar to so many other buildings. I think it'd be a great loss if it were torn down, as I understand is currently the plan. It was recently sold and has been approved for 4 lots of single-family homes. However, a demolition permit has not been issued for this building. I spoke with Mr. Stowell from the Historic Board, and he advised me that this building has absolutely no special protection whatsoever. It's not in a historic district, it is not designated a historic place, and I think it's just something that has gone unnoticed for so long, and no one sought to have this designated historic. I'm not looking to hurt development. I certainly wouldn't want to see the person who purchased this suffer financially for it. You don't have to tell anybody in the fire department how much we could use the additional revenue from 4 single-family homes. But this building is a one of a kind, not only in the city of Lowell, but there are not many like it in the country. And very few are left standing and appear to be in this good a condition. If it's structurally sound, I think it would be a disaster to take this down. The city's lost some of the mills on the Mile of Mills. We lost the old Armory building on Westford Street. And this is a distinct piece of the city's history with a lot of nice architectural features, some different gables in the roof, the slate roof. It has a cupola on it, a lot of ornate brickwork. The original lintels are in place, so it's much the same appearance as it had when it was built, with significant opposition actually at the time. Part of the reason I like the city is because of the efforts it's taken to preserve historic buildings. I'm not, like I said, a preservation nut. I don't think we can save everything, but I think that this building, just for circumstance or bad luck, has kind of slipped by without anyone realizing what it was for so long. And you're not going to get another one back if it's torn down. There's only one of these. When they built engine houses with towers to hang the hose to dry, we have probably 6 of them still standing in the city. But this was the only one built just to house a ladder truck, and it has some other nice architectural features. When you go in where the old garage bays are, it's arched ceilings. It has a unique narrow stairway. It's a nice building, and if it could be restored, it would make a nice centerpiece for that part of Westford Street. Again, I don't anticipate the city would have the funding to do this, but if anything can be done to prevent the destruction of it, whether it is making it eligible for state or federal funding to preserve it, enticing it so that the developer, it's economically feasible for him to convert this to some other use without destroying the building instead of multiple single-family homes. The packet I gave to everyone just has some shots of when it was in use and some of the finer architectural points of the building and the lot. Again, I don't know all of the details of the real estate transactions as to when this was sold and where it currently is in the process of planning for lots. Some of what I have is secondhand, that it's for single-family homes, and it's going to be subdivided. But in the packet I gave you more or less sums up my opinion and some of the information that I have on it, and anything that this body or the city can do to preserve this building. It really is a great building. I think a lot of people drive by and don't notice it. It just kind of slides by. So if anybody has questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Strunk. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I think Mr. Strunk really wrapped up exactly why I filed the motion upon receiving his email. I appreciate him bringing it to our attention before there is a wrecking ball ready to take the building down. I don't know if there's anything that the city can do either, other than contact the developer and let them know our interest. Historic preservation really is one of the cornerstones of this city. It certainly is one of the attractions. I think it bonds this city. It preserves the memories of so many generations that this building would be a shame if it were torn down. I don't know if it's structurally sound or not, but I thought it was worthy of discussing it here tonight to see if there is anything that we can do before it's too late. And at least it's not being demolished. There hasn't been a demolition permit issued at this point. Maybe there isn't anything that we can't do, but as Mr. Strunk indicated, it's one of a kind. And it's up in a neighborhood that doesn't have, clearly doesn't have any buildings like this. And as he mentioned, it sort of just, slipped through the cracks. I think if anyone would have known that this was going to be slated to be demolished for 4 single-family homes, we certainly would have taken some preemptive measures to make sure that this doesn't take place. So that's the gist of the motion, Mr. Manager, and anything we can do to, prevent this historic structure from being demolished, I think would be, certainly positive to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Councilor, I will certainly look into this and see what can be done. I have been contacted by Steve Stoll. He's provided me with some background on this, and he has explained that, and I know he's met with Lieutenant Strunk regarding this matter. It is not one of the. It is not located in any of the 10 districts. One of the 10 districts that the Historic Board has jurisdiction in, and it's not designated as a. On the National Register in any way, so the Historic Board is limited in what they can do, and there doesn't seem to be any other ordinances that we could fall back on. Certainly, we'll contact the developer and see what if we can find out what their plans are. It appears that they have already secured the signatures for demolition, but I'll double check on that. And we'll see what, if anything, we can do to save this building in some way. It is a beautiful building. I've had an opportunity to look at it myself. Actually, Councilor Caulfield and I took a ride by it several months ago, and but it's one of those situations that we have a number of historic buildings in the city that don't have any form of protection, and this may fall into that category. So we'll take a look and see what we can do to, if anything.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you. Through you to the manager, I would think, Mr. Manager, that if you could have Steve Stoll or someone from the planning department actually fill out the one-page sheet to the Mass Historic Commission and just, request what it takes to get the building put on the state register, it may end up slowing things down, just by virtue of having that filed with the state. Again, I don't know legally if that...
That's one of the things we would look at exploring as a possibility,
Okay.
Councilor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next motion by Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Milanazzo. The City Council requests the City Manager to report on improvements to streets and sidewalks in the downtown area. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. Unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks, I've witnessed a number of falls of people, one elderly woman, and then I had a bank employee actually fall last week, and she was very seriously hurt on Market Street. And so based upon that and then the other incident 2 weeks ago, I decided to try to get an update to find out where we are with the improvements to streets and sidewalks in the downtown, because, as you know very well, we really need to start a public works project to get some of that work done.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I'm sorry.
With regards to this area, the downtown area, as many of you know, and the entire council knows, we've been having our downtown summits, and a key part of that is some public improvements in the downtown area that would include the streets and the sidewalks. They are in a state where there is some disrepair that needs to be taken care of, so we're currently utilizing the services of Vanessa Hang and Brusland to do some work for us. They're a large engineering firm. They've done work for the city in the past. They're doing a review of the downtown area, looking at the vault systems underneath the sidewalks, as well as an overview of the entire downtown with regards to public improvements that would include streets, sidewalks, plantings, and the like that would be rolled out as part of our downtown initiative. So we will be getting information on that. I would anticipate in the next month, and then being able to, as I say, roll those out sometime in June. So give the council some status report on that.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Anything further? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Armin Mercier. The City Council requests the City Manager take the appropriate action to dedicate the field house at Father Maguire Park in honor of Mary Mullen. Second by Councilor Caulfield and Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you.
It was a tie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I took the opportunity of putting a little bio in your packet over the weekend so you could read about Mary Mullen, and for the benefit of the people who are watching the meeting tonight, I'd like to read it into the record. Mary Mullen was a shy and very polite, honest student who attended Mass every day at St. Rita's Church near her Pawtuckaville home. But when this young lady walked into a playing field or a basketball court, she left the boys and men she competed against in her dust. A 1937 graduate of the Bartlett Middle School in the class of 1940 at Lowell High School, Mary Mullen was a multi-sport standout and honor student who starred at the Lowell High School basketball team and track. There were no baseball teams for girls at the time, so she picked exhibition games against older boys and men, including the St. Rita's CYO. She was referred to as a Wonder Girl by the Lowell Sun sport writers in 1939 when she earned a spot on the Boston Olympics semi-pro softball team while still in high school. Tragically, Mary Mullen died unexpectedly at the age of 22 after undergoing a routine appendectomy. During her short life, Mary dreamed that one day girls and women would be recognized for their sport endeavors as equals to boys and men. A woman ahead of her time, she proved time and time again that a girl could hold her own against boys, and that fiercely competitive spirit could coexist with strong character and integrity. Today, 4 Mary Mullen trophies are presented annually to the outstanding scholar athlete at the Bartlett Middle School and Lowell High, along with 2 top Pawtuckaville Youth League participants. These awards were created 10 years ago by Mary's brother, Bill Red Mullen, a strong supporter of youth sports in our community. Each year, Red Mullen presents these awards to young women who not only excel in sport, but also have high academic performance and strong character. Mary Mullen serves as a role model to boys and girls alike, exemplifying the spirit and character of youth sports. The city should be proud and honored to call her its own, and I can't think of anything more benefiting than naming the Father Maguire Fieldhouse in honor of this outstanding neighborhood athlete who serves as an inspiration to us all. This came to me as a request from a number of constituents, and it's my understanding if this is approved by the City Council, which I hope it would be referred to the Board of Parks for implementation. I think that's where it's going to go. So that's the motion. Thank you for letting me read the bio for the general public.
Thank you, Councilor. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's approved. The next motion by Councilor Armin Mercier. City Council requests the City Manager report on the status of the Jam Area Parking Garage. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, what I'm looking for is an update on the parking garage. A, is it on time? Is it behind? A, is it on budget? Is it over budget? And 3, are there some major change orders that has been effectuated either through the city's request or the contractor? I think that periodically we ought to get these reports so that we could monitor whether or not there are any problems surfacing before it's too late. So it's basically, that's what it's all about.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Happy to provide that, Councilor. I believe we gave you a status report on this back at the beginning of February. Substantial progress has been made on this. It's still on time. Actually, I think it's a little bit ahead of schedule. It is still on budget. And I'll have to get you the details on the change orders. I'm not aware of any major change orders on this. I think there have been 1 or 2. But we'll get you all that information, get it for the next meeting for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been watching the construction. It is an absolute beautiful building, and not only will it serve that neighborhood, but it will serve the entire city. I think that's the anchor for downtown and that neighborhood. It's beautiful. It's really nice.
Thank you. Anything further? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Broderick. City Council requests the city manager investigate the feasibility of retaining expert counsel for the Hamilton Canal eminent domain taking appeals. Second by Councilor Donahue. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I filed this motion about a year ago, actually, and it kind of fizzled out, and nothing was really done, or it wasn't supported, I guess. And I want to make it clear that it's not in any way, shape, or form a slight at the law department that we have. You know, as an attorney, you learn that there are specializations, and much like if you had a heart condition, you would want to go to a cardiologist. If you have a special condition, legal condition, you want to go to a specialist in that field as well. You know, there's a lawsuit's been filed against the city, I believe, last week, and my understanding is it's unspecified damages, but we did receive a letter last year, I believe, from Mr. Luchulis' attorneys. I would consider it somewhat of a demand letter in the amount of, I think, $18 million. So we have some severe exposure here, and I think we need to make sure that we put our best foot forward to make sure that we're properly prepared and posture this case for settlement. Because if we don't do it from the outset, the case will not settle. And we have a law department with 5 full-time attorneys, 3 part-time attorneys, and that are swamped with a caseload, you know, handling everything that the city has to deal with, dealing with municipal law. And I just think that we should at least look at it, see what our options are, and in terms of either as consultants, you know, I don't know what the different options could be, in more than one law firm to get some pricing. But that's the gist of it, is just to see if we can. I just want to make sure we get the best we can in this specialized field to defend the city, because if we have a bad loss, it's going to be bad for our kids. It's going to be that, you know, the potential is that bad, you know, is out there. The city's seen it before, and I think we need to make sure we're totally prepared. You know, we hire expert appraisers. I think we need to make sure that we protect ourselves on the legal side as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Oh, Councilor Caulfield?
Yeah. Would like to ask the Madam Solicitor, do you have any issues, with any questions, or none?
The motion apparently has been referred to the manager, and I would work with the manager in addressing the motion.
The next motion by Councilor Broderick. The City Council requests the city manager report on the need and/or use of specialized counsel to represent the city in the sale of the Hamilton Canal District land. Second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Broderick.
Obviously, this came out of the same thought process dealing with the Hamilton Canal District. As we're getting closer to the manager's getting closer to the selection and beginning the charrette process. In looking at the different parcels and the configuration of the land, there's going to be almost every imaginable issue dealing with land and land transactions, from environmental cleanup, the liability that stems from that, the responsibility for coordinating the project between the private developer, DKM, or whoever builds the courthouse, and if the Nanotechnology Center lands there. I mean, everything from permits to who's going to be responsible, how it's structured to be on time, how payments are going to be made, and the whole bit. And I don't know if there's any plan, but what I'm asking here is that if there is, could we know ahead of time to find out how it's being paid, what you expect? My understanding is Worcester did something similar that cost a bundle. So I guess this is just to say, you know, can you let us know what the intent is and what the need is? Thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to request the manager to put a price tag when you evaluate whether or not this is the way you're going to go, because we're talking about a lot of money here.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to know what the price tag is to go beyond our own crew. Thank you.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager. Probably you can't answer this question, but when the state looks to put the judicial center there, they will be buying that land from the city?
That is the position that we've taken, is that they have to pay us for that land. They were prepared to pay for the land on Davidson Street and pay for the relocation of the businesses on at the Davidson lot. And you know, this actually is probably a better deal for the state to purchase this property from the city.
Thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Is there any possibility of applying the same model that we did with the Senior Citizen Center, that the state would have this developed privately and that they would lease it back so that we would get taxes? It would seem to me that Route 3 went that way, and our senior citizen went that way, and I wondered if the state legislators or our delegation has given that any thought. First of all, I think it would be done a lot quicker. Second of all, it would be taxes for the city of Lowell, because it would be on a tax roll and leased to the state for the judicial center. Do you know if anyone has looked into this?
Mr. Manager?
Actually, Councilor, that was the plan with this facility. That would be a design build, similar to Route 3.
Right.
Based upon that, it was our position that it should be they should pay taxes, be privately owned, leased off to the state, and that they should pay taxes. They have taken the position that that is not the case, and so we'll be working with the Department of Revenue on that issue. However, since that time, DCAM has also begun thinking that they would do the project themselves and own it themselves, and at which time, of course, there would not be taxes due. I agree with you that it could probably be done faster and perhaps more on budget if it were done in a design build manner. But they haven't made a final decision on that yet. We've been working with the legislative delegation on a number of those issues, though.
During the negotiations, you might want to throw in the fact that if it can't be done that way, maybe they could assign a payment in lieu of taxes to that project. I think that's permissible in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, it is. The Department of Revenue has certain guidelines that they follow in doing that. I mean, we receive a payment in lieu of taxes for some of the state property that's here now. Whether it would have to fall into that formula or not remains to be seen. But we would certainly look to get as much tax dollars as we can. I think the positive news is clearly that the existing courthouses will probably be released to private development, which would bring some tax revenue in on those properties, though.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. I believe that concludes the agenda. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting stands adjourned.